Tools in Terraria are a selective group of items that are mandatory when it comes to mining, building and upgrading your gear for the next stages of the game. I'm talking pickaxes, drills, axes, chainsaws, hammers, wiring, hooks, bug nets, fishing poles, magic mirrors, Clentaminator and the most important of all of them, buckets. But what if I couldn't use them? Will I be able to finish the game? Okay, so how do I get wood? I started my journey by creating a new character in a whole new world. I will be playing normal mode and small world. The small world will give me access to find all life crystals much faster and biomes are going to be much closer. After spawning as a new guy, I immediately put my starting tools in a bin slot and our challenge begins. The first thing I have to do is to find a lot of pots for potential bombs to start getting wood. The entrance of the first cave I ran into is a total dud, however, I do not give up and continue my exploration. I didn't have to look for too long and after destroying one of the pots, I obtain a couple of bombs. The cave gets really dangerous with all the traps and mobs, but I have a feeling that my first life crystal is right around the corner. After spotting life crystal, I have to use all of my brain power to mine the heart. Yeah, this is gonna be harder than I thought. Right, this should work. I ran out of torches while exploring, and as I wanted to go back on the surface, I do stumble on a heart statue that I would like to get. Am I gonna die? Well, I'm in a pickle. Yeah, crap, I'm gonna... Oh! Back at base, I use bombs to destroy some of the trees for wood, which will be useful in building my first NPC house. The guide, however, doesn't want to move, and after quite some time trying to convince him, I gave up and went for a smaller house. I built another NPC house to spawn a merchant, because at the time I thought that he sells bombs for some reason. Boy, was I wrong. I then craft a wooden sword to upgrade my gear a little bit, and to my surprise, I get a pointy bonus, which gives me a boost to my damage. Next up, while exploring the cave, I find a chest with climbing claws in it. This will be quite helpful in the beginning of my adventure. I also try to get the chest from the explosion, but it ends with me getting injured and not getting a chest. Not too long after failing, I find a boomerang, and I also bump into the abandoned building where I find the anvil and boots of Hermes. My exploration ends in a bad fashion when I don't expect a boulder trap and lose a lot of money as a result. I do, however, get some of it back by selling all the goods to the merchant. Right after getting paid, I quickly got some materials and started building another NPC house. This one is for the demolitionist, so I can buy explosives and the nurse will quickly heal me up if needed. I do some exploring on the surface to find the Skeletron, but since it's a small world, I don't have to walk too much, and after a few minutes, the dungeon is right in front of my eyes. I keep going to the edge of the world to dive in the ocean for the crates. On the way there, I bump into the angler and build a little cottage for him. My stunning construction finally stands so I can yeet into the cavernous water. My luck brings me water walking boots and a shark bait, so it's not that bad. I'm happy about the boots. I use my new sneakers to get into the jungle biome and impress all the hornets with my fashion. I also am looking for a queen bee, and luckily I don't have to look that long. My explorations continues as I really want to find a boomstick, which is a very powerful shotgun that is going to help me deal with enemies much easier. First jungle crate is a dud, however the next one has a boomstick in it. I can't believe my luck as the weapon has the enchantment Godly, which is one of the best modifiers in the game. Back at base, I built another NPC house so the arms dealer moves in. Following his arrival, I buy some bullets and go to the demolitionist for bombs, so we don't run out of explosives anytime soon. I go back underground to find more life crystals and silver to increase my HP and defense points. My luck continues as I find a sharpener in one of the abandoned houses. The sharpener will give me 12 armor penetration, which is a massive boost to my damage. I also find Cloud in a Bottle, which is a huge buff for the early game. Realizing how low my defense is leads me into the grind set of finding more life crystals and silver. I almost have a heart attack when a detonator goes off while mining silver, but fortunately I can grab the goods and keep going. Not too long after escaping the explosion, I stumble across a temple. I quickly mark the spot on the map with the torches, but my luck starts to run out as I die from poison. After respawning in base, I make some silver armor near the anvil. Unfortunately, I don't have enough for a full set, so I go underground again. After what felt like eternity, I finally found the last life crystal. Now with maxed HP, I can focus on looking for the Goblin Scouts. The Goblin Scouts drop the tattered cloth, which is a necessary material to craft the Goblin Standard and start Goblin Invasion. Next, I build an NPC house in every biome to set up a basic pylon system. Less walking, more time mining, that's what I always say. On my building adventure, I come across a Goblin Scout, but since one is never enough, I start building a huge arena to the right side of the world so the Goblin Scouts can spawn more frequently. Right after finishing the arena, I go back to base and start throwing bombs straight down to dig a elevator. I stop throwing explosives, however, when I hit the tombs. While exploring the hallway, I discover a room full of gold coins and I even get the Pharaoh drip. Next, down goes the rope for easier transport to the underworld. Unfortunately, my calculations weren't accurate and I had to fix my ropeway. Well, that's why you should stay at that university you're currently in and not drop out like a complete douche. God, that got oddly personal. Blood Moon starts and it's farming time. I'm looking for a shark tooth necklace which gives me 5 armor penetration, which at this stage of the game is absolutely bonkers. I loot Bloody Tear from Maiden, however, my luck runs out and I don't get the necklace. I continue my preparation for the hard mode as I dive into the underworld to build a long platform to challenge Wall of Flesh. Following my return to base, I immediately rush to the Crimson biome to find a big cave with Crimson Hearts. Exploding Crimson Hearts drops a special item, and on top of that, every third destroyed Crimson Heart spawns a Brain of Cthulhu. I build a pretty sizable arena to dodge as many attacks from the brain as I can. I need a lot of Crimtane ore for the Crimtane set, which gives a hefty buff towards my damage. Right before challenging Brain of Cthulhu, I craft some silver bullets to obliterate my enemies with my boomstick, and I even set up a small flower farm for basic potions. Better late than never, I guess. I don't have time to rest as I immediately go back to the Crimson biome to challenge the Brain of Cthulhu. I pray for luck because I would like to drop some insane items from the Crimson Hearts to make my fight with Brain and Wall of Flesh much easier. I smash hearts with bombs and I drop the Panic Necklace, which gives me a hefty speed bonus after taking damage. This will for sure come in handy. Following the smashed third Crimson Heart, Brain of Cthulhu arrives. Using my boomstick, I deal massive damage to the eyes while dodging as much of their attacks as I can. After destroying the eyes, I run around the brain and not so long after, I claim my prize. Just as I was leaving the cave, the Eye of Cthulhu spawns. I quickly get myself to the surface and deal with the eye. I once again grab the boomstick and absolutely obliterate the boss with the silver bullets. The fight ends pretty fast, so I swiftly collect my goods and head straight back to base. I don't waste time to relax in my house, however, because I can finally craft Crimtane bars to transform my current set into the Crimtane set. This will give me a bonus defense points and a much needed better health regen. I also cook up the meatball for a slight boost with my melee damage. Next up, I try to find more goblin scouts as I finally feel ready to deal with the goblin invasion. However, I don't find any goblin scouts and I will have to think about another solution. I get myself into the jungle biome to obtain some honey blocks. The honey blocks are much needed material to craft the Abomination, which is a totem that spawns Queen Bee. I will craft a couple of those as Queen Bee is an easy boss to deal with and she drops a lot of money in the early stages of the game. The weapon I am looking for is a bee gun. The bee gun shoots little bees that deal tremendous AoE damage before hard mode. This will definitely help me to deal with the goblin invasion later on. After getting into the hive, I chug all my buff potions and my battle with the queen bee begins. Because the hive is pretty small and cramped, fighting with a queen takes much longer and it's a bigger pain between my cheeks. However, after finally the boss is defeated, I realize that my buffs are still up, so I summon more queens. Back at base, I maximize my mana capacity and I speedrun to fight the Skeletron while my buffs are still up. The beacon annihilates the hands and when I run out of mana, I swap to my trusty boomstick to deal with the head. The fight doesn't last long and the Skeletron is finally defeated. Before jumping into the dungeon, I want to face the goblin invasion. I chug a battle potion and farm tattered cloth from goblin scouts in my arena. I feel my luck slowly coming back, as I don't have to spend a lot of time looking for these blue creatures. Back at base, I quickly craft a sawmill and a loom. I create a goblin standard and use it while chilling on the east side of the map. I loudly sigh as I can see the notification that the Goblin Army is marching from the west. I get back to my base and the war with Goblin begins. The bee gun, once again, proves itself as the main damage dealer with its enormous AoE damage. The Goblin Army doesn't stand a chance and as they run out of troops, the army is defeated. I can't sit on the laurels yet, so right after Goblin invasion, I head straight underground to look for a Goblin Tinkerer. The Goblin Tinkerer is a must-have NPC in my journey as he sells rocket boots, Tinkerer's workshop, and on top of that, my man can enchant my weapons, armor and accessories so I can get pretty hefty bonus to my damage. After crafting Spectre boots, wait. How do you read this?
Spectre.
Alright, perfect. After crafting Spectre boots, I yeet myself into the dungeon. I'm looking for a cobalt shield which gives me immunity to knockback. This is going to be extremely helpful because then I can fully focus on dealing damage with my weapons without so much worry about dodging enemy attacks to get stun locked. I bump into the mechanic, so I quickly help her out and continue my travels. The first chest blesses me with Muramasa and from the second I get the Shadow Key which opens chests in the underworld. I also try to farm as many bones as I possibly can to craft a brand new Necro Armor. The Necro Armor has a 20% increased range damage bonus and a 20% chance not to consume ammo. Quite some time passes as I finally get my hands on the Cobalt Shield in the chest. Back at base, I craft the Obsidian Shield and ask Goblin Tinkerer very nicely to give me some godlike reforging. Next up, I use Bloody Tear to summon the Blood Moon. I'm looking for a Shark Tooth necklace to maximize my damage against Wall of Flesh. My luck fully returns as not so long after the summoning, I dropped the necklace. I utilized the increased spawn rate during the Blood Moon by roping to the underworld to find a demon with a voodoo doll. After defeating a demon and claiming the doll, I am finally ready to battle Wall of Flesh. I chug all of my buff potions and throw the doll into the lava, and nothing happens because I didn't throw it accurately enough. The second time's the charm as the dawn finally burns and Wall of Flesh awakens. I quickly swap to the bee gun to deal with the hungries with the massive AoE damage. They don't stand a chance against the power of the bees, and as the hungries are defeated, I swap between various of my weapons to deal with the main wall. My trusty boomstick is making sure that the boss doesn't live for very long, and as I defeat Wall of Flesh, the hard mode begins.